Stand by. Is this thing on?
Yes, Dan.
Oh, hello.
You're listening to Old News with Dan and Carrie.
This just in.
Breaking news to report.
We are live.
Old newscasters
Can we just say former?
Sure. Former newscasters reunite behind the mic after more than 20 years.
Old news is good news.
Stay tuned. We are wrapping up season 2 today, and it has been an awesome season.
It has been. You said you went back and looked at all of the folks that we interviewed this season. And as I'm thinking through my head, we had some really great folks on the show this time. Some really good people, really interesting.
We did. We had a huge variety. Some are still in news. Many are not. I'm going to run through the list just to hopefully get your interest so you'll go and listen if you haven't already. But we had Justin Bomberg, who toured with the Rolling Stones. He was one of the guys on on the stage with a big camera, so people in the nosebleed seats watching the show could see the show from afar. We had my mom, who told her incredible story about being in a clinical trial for her stage 4 cancer. Unfortunately, since then, the cancer has returned, but her treatment is different this time around because of her being in the clinical trial, because of what the doctors learned. So the story continues. She's doing really well, though. So I do encourage you to listen to that one. Bob Miller, he was living the dream in Ireland.
That's a great one. I just saw today on social media that him and his wife they're on a jet to tour Europe right now. So, yeah, busy folks.
Yes, I actually just saw that right before we started recording. We had Professor Emeritus James Hoyt, who influenced so many journalism majors at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He really had a profound impact on his students, and many of them shared a little bit of that in our podcast, which was really cool.
And just a really great guy. I mean,
Yes.
I had not met him in person before, other than I think I did an interview with him at some point in the news days. But boy, just so gracious and friendly and kind. I'm sure having him as a professor was just a fantastic opportunity.
It really was. And then Steve Sabatke, our radio friend. We did get one radio guy in here.
We did. We probably, if we do some more in the future, and we do plan on doing some more as they happen, but Steve was great because he met Fred McMurray. He did an interview over the phone with Fred McMurray of My Three Sons and Double Indemnity. And so older people might remember Fred. So that's kind of interesting. It's always cool to talk to people who have talked to famous people.
Yeah. And he had a lot of cool stories, too, just about how he got started. And that was a different perspective. Tammy Coe of Coe Communications, she has had a really interesting career. She was in news for a long time, and then she shifted gears, and now she's in business for herself and doing some great work out there.
Yeah. And really, again, just the ultimate professional when she was in the news business, and still like just an earnest person who is so friendly and kind. And I'm sure part of her success is due to her ability to just relate to people on their level. So that was a fun one.
It was. And she's such a hard worker, too. I mean, just talk about putting in the effort. She always put in the extra mile. She was there after hours, before, if you could do more, that was Tammy. She always was willing to do more, and it's really paid off for her.
We'd be coming in for the news at 1:30, and sometimes Tammy would still be there.
Right.
Of course, working on tapes, but
yeah. But again, because she always had her eye on the prize, she knew where she was headed. Shannon Sipe, we talked to her. She was doing Come From Away, Down Under.
Yeah, and she has just taken that experience, and now it's blossomed into even more. She's going to be doing Hairspray in Chicago coming up, but even more exciting, she's doing an off-Broadway show in July. I guess it starts in June and then starts in May and finishes up in June 8th, off Broadway, which is really exciting for her. So,
that's so cool.
What we talked to her and other folks about often was like, what's that next stage? What's the
Hmm.
next stage of your life? And she is head deep into it and really doing it well. So she's one of those people
Absolutely.
I look at and go, gosh, we could do that.
Yes, I know. I feel like anybody who needs just a little inspiration to pursue their dreams should listen to that one because she
Hmm.
really was explaining how, I mean, she's at the point in her life where she's an empty nester and she has a very supportive husband who's letting, doesn't mind that she's like doing all this stuff all over. She has a job that she can do from anywhere. So she is
Right.
just living in all these different cities for short periods of time to do the shows she's always dreamed of. And again, putting in the hard work, going to New York City, networking, doing, auditions, et cetera, et cetera. But she's living her dreams. So if you need a little inspiration to live your dreams, listen to that one.
And it might tire you out a little bit too.
Yeah, I know. Then well, I'll take a nap after. Steve Shamra's still in the biz. He is in Milwaukee, and it was really interesting to see him. He was in the old Reitman and Miller. Remember, he was in that studio,
Right?
the old Reitman and
Yep.
Miller studio. And
WKTI.
yeah, so he's a main anchor in Milwaukee, doing so well. It's fascinating just to hear how daily news is there, and in this day and age of social media and everything else we've talked about.
So much. I mean,
Hmm.
people who are still working in the news business, their day, I don't think it ever ends. They just are doing it constantly in so many different platforms. And that was another great example of one of those people who has kind of transitioned from the old days of news to the new
Yeah.
days. And he was kind of one of those guys who came in right at the cusp of
Hmm.
the internet and all of the social media. So he grew
Hmm.
up with it.
We had a couple of news directors. Well, not news director. I take that back. We had a
Mhm.
station manager, Steve Rohr,
Yep.
and we had a news director, Todd Pritchard. And Steve was winding down after being station manager and ready for the next chapter. And I know he's working. I know I should have looked up. I know he has that new job. Do you remember what it is?
I believe it's
It's
with
like
it's
an
an animal
animal
organization. It
rescue
might be the Humane
Yes,
Society.
something
I
like that.
probably could look it up. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
Okay,
Okay.
talk amongst
Yeah.
yourselves. But Steve is one of the nicest human beings you will ever know. And that theme really evolved when we were talking with him about he led from such a beautiful place. And if you need inspiration to be the kind of leader you really want to be, an inspirational leader who really is kind and thoughtful, listen to that episode with Steve Rohr because he really embodies all of those values.
He's at the Rescue League of Iowa. He's the director of community partnerships and annual services or animal services at the Animal Rescue League of Iowa. So
Very
a
good. Very
complete
good.
a complete shift, but
Mm-hmm.
really seems to fit a man like him very well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite episodes, Dr. Patty Lowe.
Yeah, that was a great one.
She is such a fascinating woman, and she was explaining to us how her Native American roots, like she wasn't really aware of them growing up, but then when she started to put two and two together and realize she had this history that she hadn't spent much time on, it changed her whole career, whole trajectory, and she, really followed the path of journalism through the lens of being a Native American and then changing things. She writes textbooks. She's written many books, documentaries. She's affected many students because she's taught at UW-Madison as well as Northwestern, and she's really had a profound impact on people.
And one of those people who, like a lot of the folks we talk to, has so many interests and so many talents and uses them in so many different ways as well. From being, like you said, a professor at Northwestern and at the University of Wisconsin and all of the things she does. And she has a great sense of humor. She is a very funny person to talk with. And her first job, do you remember what it was? One of her
Yes, singing at a German supper club.
What was your
Yeah.
first job ever? What was your worst job ever? And is there something you're still thirsting to do,
Oh,
Patty?
okay. First job was I was a singing waitress in a German supper club in Milwaukee. and
No
I
way.
sang. I was accompanied by a 91-year-old zither player and learned all the German drinking songs by rote. I have no idea what I was singing, but I learned the syllables.
Please give us a
Fantastic.
little sample, just a little.
Ah, really?
Ach, du lieber
Yes.
Augustine. Ach.
Du liegst mir im Herzen, du liegst mir im Sinn. Okay, that's it.
Yeah,
That is
great.
Weiß
awesome.
nicht, wie gut ich dir bin.
So was that
That
Carl
was
Roch's or Mater's
that was at the
no,
Golden Zither.
the Golden Zither? Okay.
Yes, on the north side.
Outstanding. Mike Ladisa, we spoke with, he is still in it big time. He's got his own
Yeah.
photography, videography business. He's based in Florida, but ABC and others call upon him for national news, like the biggest news stories of the year. He has been there doing, setting up live shots, being involved. That was cool to hear, just
Yeah.
like how that all works. Like who is calling the shots? Who is he listening to? How it gets on air? Because then we're watching it, all of us in our living rooms, but a lot goes into those.
And often it's right. It's Good Morning America's Ginger Z. He does a lot of work with them when there's storms and
Hmm.
things like that down in that neck of the woods. And also he just unveiled his new facility down there, a very large studio
Hmm.
space and really cool. Kind of watched it being built online. So very successful and really another great guy.
I touched on Todd Pritchard, who is now working for. He was our news director, one of several, but he's another just a great guy. And now he's landed back in Madison, working for the university. And it was so fun to see him sitting in that corner office, overlooking the lake, the
Like,
iconic
yeah.
Memorial Union. It's just, oh, I love that setting, and it was so fun to hear from him. He worked in Hawaii. He's our only guest who's worked as a news director in Hawaii.
And if you listen to his because he's got the best voice
He
to listen
does.
to.
He
It's just
does.
like got that deep radio voice, just
Yeah.
a pleasure to hear.
Yes,
See the
totally.
stupid things I remember? I just remember
Hey.
that kind of stuff.
No, it's true. It's true. Monique Lavin, she was one of our guests as well, and she's a main anchor at KIRO, and she has just launched a new podcast called Hit and Miss. It what didn't even have that title when we were talking with her when she was unveiling some of what it was going to be
Right,
like. The title came
right.
after, but
Yeah.
that's available now. Podcasts everywhere, and I mean it's beautifully produced, and it's a really cool concept that she's talking with extremely successful people about some of their biggest mistakes.
And you're right, boys. That is so nicely produced. We're here on Zoom and on any of your podcast channels that you're listening at, but that has like high quality video production,
Hmm.
kind of done in a TV style, but you
Hmm.
can still podcast and really fascinating guests. I was mentioning before, I listened to the one she did with the author of Boys in the Boat.
Mm.
Really interesting. So it's folks who you probably have heard of or of what they've done, and I highly recommend listening to that. And she's a great interviewer.
Absolutely. And then our grand finale. Oh no, not grand finale, because you have one to edit still at the
I
time of
still do, yeah.
publication.
It's in the machine as we speak.
In the machine. All right. Well, the second to the last was Bob Lindmeyer, local broadcast legend. Everybody in the Madison area knows Bob. He was a weather forecaster for 45 years and 45
Yeah.
years in Madison. 40, I think it was
Chief
45.
meteorologist for most of
Yeah.
those.
I mean, he is an amazing person who loves his career, loves just weather, and loves the science of weather and sharing it with people. People really
Mhm.
turn to him in severe weather because they trust him. And he had one mission and one mission only to get people the information they needed so they could be safe. And it was really fun to talk with him.
And even though he's retired from the TV business, he's still out there speaking about climate change and climate
Hmm.
science, which is a particular passion of his. And
Hmm.
he just received an award for his work in that area. So,
Mm.
like so many of the folks, so many of the people that we talk to who might be retired or onto something else, they're not just sitting around,
Mm-mm.
watching TV. They're
No.
do people still watch TV? They're out there doing other things, and trying to take something that they have a passion for and
Hmm.
continue to be relevant well into the future. So,
Hmm.
again, an inspiring discussion with him.
Absolutely. And then our last one that's in the machine now, Pam.
She can bring home the bacon and fry it in the pan. And that voice.
Hello, Kramer.
She's got really nice hair. Oh, it's incredible. She's a dreamboat. Pam. Pam. Pam.
Well, and that'll be before people see this one, they
Yes.
will have heard that one. But Pam Towser,
Right.
again, she and I have something in common. We're both realtors for the same company, First Weber, and Pam also is still doing television with the Moms Every Day, and what is it's called Moms?
Or
Is it
family,
something beyond that?
it
Families
changed
Every
to
Day now.
family every
Yeah.
day or families every day. Yeah.
So I'll have to
Still
edit
has.
this if that's wrong. But yeah, she still has her foot in the door of, doing TV production and stuff she's interested in still.
Hmm.
Things that families can learn from and moms and dads can learn from. So it's kind of neat to hear that she's been able to do, like you, Carrie, too,
Hmm.
still able to do a number of different things and kind of do it on your own terms. So
Hmm.
that's great. Uh,
Yes.
and we should talk about you, Carrie, because talk about people who are doing things well into the future. I mean, you're doing talent work, you're doing voiceover work, and you teach classes, and you have a duo, a musical duo that you guys have been doing quite a few gigs out there.
Yes, we are having so much fun. And actually now I have a second band, if you will. So the
Oh,
one with my friend Amy, she's a
yep.
Pittsburgh musician. We are called Happy Hour. And we have gigs lined up for the summer, including I'm so excited about, well, all of them, but the one at the airport, at the Pittsburgh
Yeah.
International Airport
I'm gonna fly
on
in just to see that one.
I know my husband's planning his travel so we can fly in, have a drink at the bar, and watch us sing. But I'm so excited as we went through this extensive application process, submitted our demo reel and all this information, and we were selected. So I'm so excited about that. And my new other band, while we're still working on a name, I think we're going to be After Sunday. So Josh plays guitar and I sing, and we've been singing together on Sunday mornings at church for years. So I
Ah,
recently had a gig, if you will. It involved a yoga class. So I started doing it, and then he's interested in playing more out. He loves playing at church, and he was like, "Oh, I'd love to play at more places." So I was like, "Hey, Josh, I'm playing for this yoga class. Do you want to join me?" And he said yes. So we started practicing. We got, that set list down, and it's like, okay, that came and went, and it's like, well, now what? Now what should we do? So we both want to continue. So we're getting our own set list together, and we're trying to come up with a name that, acknowledges that we met at church on Sunday. So I think we're going to be After Sunday, but to be announced on that one.
so what kind will you be playing? Like, inspirational music, or what kind of set list are you talking about?
Anything. We're not playing church music, if you
Church
will.
music.
No,
Okay.
it's just we're playing a real mishmash. Anything we like is on the table. And it's fun. Like when we
So,
get together, it's like I'll pick one that I want to play, and it's like 10,000 Maniacs, and then he picks one that he wants to play, and it's like Lumineers. And so it's like I'm learning songs that I didn't know before, and same with him, and it's just fun to be continuing to grow as musicians and singers and guitar, and I play ukulele as well. So it's just, it's nice to have a goal. It's like a reason to practice if you have gigs coming
right,
up, and then now
right.
we have a timeline. Now it's a priority. That's kind of at least how I operate.
So how do you balance all that? I mean, so two bands that you're gigging with now, and then you've got, the courses that you teach, and then you're doing other work too. Do you feel really busy sometimes, or is life at a
No,
pace that you're enjoying?
it's at a pace I'm enjoying because it's real spread out. I mean, as you know, the talent work, the on-camera stuff, voiceover stuff, it's hit and miss, to borrow
Right.
Monique's
Ah,
title.
right.
You just kind of never know when that stuff is happening. And then my yoga classes are twice a week, 3 times, or I have extras in the summer in the park. That's just a steady schedule, and then the gigs, they're it's not like they're every day. I have like one a month is kind of the schedule I like to have. So again, like we'll get together and practice before a gig comes up, and Amy and I are at the point where we have a real big repertoire, and then Josh and I are
Yeah.
building our repertoire. So, we're like at different stages of that, but it's fun. I love it.
You're gonna have to like cross streams with the band someday. You guys can like play
A
together like a
collab.
super group.
Collab, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I know it's easier to coordinate with two people versus like a huge band. So it's kind of fun like having a little different vibe with each one.
When I mentioned like Pam Towser, you do a show as well too at one of the Pittsburgh TV stations, don't
Yeah,
you?
WPXI. So I host the a show called the Home Expert Show, and it's really fun. We record about once a month, and it features various home experts from around the area, whether they're roofers or carpet cleaners or basement remodelers, and we have like couple minutes to learn really about their business, how it got started, what special features that makes them unique, and then those air on Sunday mornings after the morning news. So it's fun. Again, I feel like it's the old days. It's like I work with the morning camera crew that just came off the morning show, so I kind of get that little taste of being back on set like we were. Now
Nice.
you're a busy fellow too. You've got your hands in a
Cool.
lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, like you, I like to stay busy. I do some talent work as well. I just did one a little bit ago for a company out of Milwaukee. So, like you said, those are kind of sporadic at
Mm-hmm.
times.
Mm-hmm.
Did one for a company here in Madison as well. Uh, and it's not like you might. I don't know. That's not fair to say, but I don't really like chase them down as much as I probably should. I
Mm-hmm.
do them when I want to, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. And then I do a fair amount of theater too, where I just finished producing a show, which kind of means you're the project manager for the show. You line up a lot of the stuff, you handle a lot of the administrative things, and get crews, and um, then at the end of the day, you hope it all works out well. And it was a really good show. It was 9 to 5 here in Sun Prairie, so that
Uh,
was a lot of fun. Um,
and you were recently
and
Willy
I
Wonka.
Right, I played Willy Wonka in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which was probably one of the most fun roles I've ever played, just
I
because
bet.
it's kind of unhinged. So it was
Typecasting.
really right. Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun for me, and some people have told me it was exactly that. It was typecasting. It was it was not fair, but it was great because there's so many different age groups in the show. We had a lot of people in the show, so it was a lot of fun. And I think audiences really enjoyed that too, so that was good. And I just got a role. I'm an understudy for the Bridges of Madison County with
Oh.
a group called Music Theater of Madison, MTM, and they do some wonderful shows in Madison. And it's a professional theater, and they
Mm.
do just some really nice stuff. So I'm excited to work with them and learn a lot with those folks. And that show will open up in August. So and
Mm.
that's again one of those, like I was talking to Shannon about this too. The show she's doing in New York right now, you literally have like a month to pull it together. And so Shannon was saying the other night they worked on 4 songs. They learned 4 songs in 3 hours,
Oh
and they're
my
done
goodness.
with that. And now it's, you got to start working it into the show. So I'm interested to see how it's going to work with MTM, and so that's really
Yeah,
exciting.
it
Um,
is.
yeah, and then I have sorry, I got something in my eye. Um, I have 3 grandkids now, which is
Ah,
exciting. We just had a
congratulations.
grandson born to our son and his wife. Yeah, so that's always fun, and you always want to be available for that. And then I have
Yeah.
work too. I'm a realtor, so this is the busy time of year. We're talking right now. We're talking in the springtime, so it's busy
Mm-hmm.
right now, and it's also the day we're doing this. It's the NFL draft day, so I'm wearing my Green Bay Packer
Oh,
I'm getting ready for the
Yay.
draft tonight. And I wanted to match you too, so that our
Yes,
yellows
you
are,
heard I was wearing yellow, so he said, I
yeah,
have just the sweatshirt for that.
that's what I heard. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I think like a lot of people who are journalists or were journalists, you kind of get into that a lot of times because you are interested in a lot of different things and you
Hmm.
have a lot of you're kind of like a jack of all trades and a master of none. And
Yeah.
that can be a bad thing, but it can be a good thing too, because you are able to pivot to a lot of different things at different times. So I think you and I have been good examples of that. And that's, I think, what's been so fascinating talking to all these people
Hmm.
because when you're working with people, you're working. And
Hmm.
then you have some fun around the edges as well, but you don't really know them as well as when you sit down and have a nice long conversation about their life. And
Hmm.
at the point we are in our lives now, it's a good time to kind of take stock and recount where you've been and where you still want to go.
Right. Reflect. Well, that might be a good
Right.
way, segue to our own first, worst, and thirsts. That's
Yeah, first,
a
worst, and thirst.
recurring segment. That was Dan's idea to do first, worst, and thirst, and I love that segment. So I think maybe we should share ours. Do you want to start?
Okay. Yeah, my first job was I was a paper boy for the Shopper Weekly,
Oh, I
which
remember the
was
shopper.
yeah, they still have the Shoppers, and so I think it said weekly, but I think we delivered it twice a week. No, it was once a week. It
Mm.
was once a week, and it was just kind of a thankless job. It was a good first job because, again, it was once a week. You had to wrap up all your papers and then you just walk around to every house in the neighborhood
Mm.
and deliver it. Um, but I had one infamous moment with that where I think it was Wednesdays or something like that where we would deliver it. And they delivered all the papers to my house, and a bunch of my buddies were getting a baseball game together. And I really wanted to play baseball with these guys. I was probably 10 or something like
Yeah.
that. And so I put them all in my bag. I wrapped them all up, put them in my bag, and I went out to a field near my house there, and I just dumped them in the field. And and nobody got their shopper. But unbeknownst to
Oh,
Dan, people actually liked getting their shoppers, especially if they were advertisers in the shopper.
oh boy.
So a couple people called, and then my mom got a call, and guess who had to go back out to the field,
Busted.
leave the baseball game, go back out to the field, get all the papers, and go deliver them. And so that was my first job, and that was an
That
infamous
could be a
moment.
hit and miss. When you're interviewed on hit and miss, you can say it all
Right.
started with the shoppers that I
Started with the
dumped in the
shopper.
field.
And fortunately, I was able to go on to the Milwaukee Journal after that. So it didn't stop me from being a Milwaukee Journal newspaper boy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh gosh, that's good.
How about you? What was your first job?
I, like a lot of people, babysitting was my first job. But as I was thinking
Mhm.
about it, I started chuckling that I'm pretty sure, and I should have confirmed this with my mom, but I'm quite certain that I was 9 years old when I started babysitting because I had a little sister and I started babysitting like, a half block away. And so if I needed anything, my parents could just walk their way down and help me if I needed. But I remember when the parents said one day, like, well, how old are you? And I said 9. And they're like, you're 9? Because they just
What?
thought I was older. And so then they were like, should we be leaving our child or our children? I can't even remember if there were more than one with a 9-year old, but I was very mature and I reported everything that happened to the parents. I loved cleaning. If I had extra time and the kids were sleeping, I'd give the kitchen a good clean or whatever I did.
That is not surprising at all, having worked with you when you were in your young 20s and you seemed like you knew more than I
65.
did. Well, let's just call us old souls. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
I'll take that.
That
All right, how about
I
your
can
worst
imagine.
job?
My worst job. Well, and I'm almost afraid to say this because my worst job was actually it was working for my brother-in-law. And it's not because I was working for my brother-in-law. He has a landscape architecture business in the
Mm,
Milwaukee area, and it was in college, and it was actually good work, but it was really hard work, and it
yeah, I can
was,
see that.
up in the morning at 6 o'clock and out in the fields at 6:30 or seven
Hmm.
o'clock, and you're working in the hot sun all day. And I had done a little bit of corn detasseling when I was young, so that was hot work too. But this was just
Hmm.
longer because also I would work all day at this job, and he was a great boss. But you were just wiped out.
Hmm.
And then I was working at Walgreens part-time too, so I'd work all day there, and then I'd go to Walgreens after that, and I would just get home at
Oh
like
boy.
10:30 sometime and just get up and do it all again the next day. And it was just hard manual labor.
Hmm.
Great. I learned a lot. I still use some of the things that I learned from that job. So again, like a lot of the people we talked to said, it could be your worst job, but
Hmm.
it you still learn from it. And
Totally.
I still use some
Totally.
of those things that I learned in that job. And never hurts to work hard.
Hmm. Yeah, my worst job was it's not even the job. It was just one shift of the job. So when I was a freshman at University of Wisconsin-Madison, I lived in Chadbourne Hall, and
Hmm.
the cafeteria was conveniently located in our dorm. So my mom said, "Oh, maybe you should get a job in working in the cafeteria." So I was like, "All right." So I did, and I had 3 shifts a week, and 2 of the shifts were fine, and I really enjoyed them. The Tuesday lunch was a blast because I was doing dishes. So we were down, like we'd be downstairs, and the dishes would come down this elevator, and I liked that shift because I just worked with 2 other young women, and they had a musical interest like I did. So I mean, it was like a TV show. We
You were
would
singing.
be singing like we'd sing in harmony while the conveyor belt comes down, and we'd like sing and laugh and tell stories, and that was a blast. The other fun shift, I liked making the twist ice cream because I loved twist ice cream. So I'm like, I'm gonna make these giant for everybody. So Sunday morning, everybody had been out till like, 3 in the morning. So everybody came, rolling in, and I'm sitting there in the chair. Would you like a twist ice cream? So then I gave them the huge ice cream. But the shift that was the worst job I ever had was Thursday nights, and that's when must-see TV was big with
Oh,
Friends and
yeah.
Seinfeld, and it's like everybody I knew was watching those shows, and then they'd go out after. Well, I worked in the kitchen, but the bad part was that I had to clean all the grease off the grills from like all the thousands of hamburgers that were just served. So this
Yeah.
grease, I mean, I can still smell it today. And it's like I had some technique where I got all the grease off, and I had to scrape it all. It'd be all over my shoes. And still, if I get a whiff of anything like that grease, I am just standing there at the hot stove in Chadbourne Hall with slimy shoes. And then I'd feel sorry for myself that everybody else was going out and I've got
Wah,
greasy
wah.
shoes. I know. Woe is me. Boo hoo.
That's hard when you're in college though, because you want to be with it, that fear of missing out on all the fun
Totally.
was pretty
Yeah.
strong back then. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, how about what are you still thirsting to do, Carrie? You do so much.
That's a great question. I would love to keep growing in music and playing out more, and just keep refining my skills there. And oops, I lost an earpod there, AirPod. Um, I love traveling. So, I mean, my total fantasy, if I just had a magic wand and could choose a fun next chapter, I would say Dan and Carrie hosting a travel show. Let's go. And I would wave
Oh,
my magic wand, and we could go places, interview people, experience things. Like I love the show The Reluctant Traveler with Eugene Levy. Have you
oh,
seen that?
that is awesome. I
Oh my
love it. Yeah.
gosh. I mean,
He hates to travel.
that's such a great shtick that is the
Hmm.
focus of that show.
Hmm.
But I love to travel, and I would love to just experience all those things. So, my future, I'd love for it to include travel, music. I mean, again, if I had a magic wand, I would love a recurring role in a TV show that I could play some fun part in.
That would be
Don't know
pretty
what it would
cool.
be. Yeah, that would be
If I
awesome.
could sit in my living room and go, that's Carrie. I know her. Tell my
So those
grandkids I worked with her.
those are my thirsts. How
I
about
mean,
you?
there's still a lot, there's still a lot out there. So many people have said travel and I like to travel too, but I like to travel very less than luxuriously. I like to, I kind of like to walk around a lot and look at stuff and not, I don't know, I just kind of like to immerse myself in a place for a while,
Mm-hmm.
so that's pretty cool. And I think that would be fun to interview people and talk to people
Mm-hmm.
in those places just about what makes living there and being there interesting and fun,
Mm-hmm.
not just like what's the best food to eat and
Yeah,
stuff like that, which
right.
is important.
Right.
So, I mean, that's part of it. But I don't know. I guess um, one of the things that I've always kind of wanted to do is try my hand at writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say that too, but I have a kid's book that I want to write. And that's why when we talked to uh, Aaron Aaron last time, gosh, why my her last name is escaping me right now. Oh
Oh, I
gosh,
know. Here, I have it right here. We know
yeah,
this.
yeah. I
This
mean,
is
I
why we're called
grew up with
old
my kids,
news. Yeah.
right? And
Still scrolling, still
keep scrolling,
scrolling.
keep scrolling. Anyway, I have a book in my mind that I'd like to write
Aaron
for kids.
Berge.
And yeah, Aaron Berge, thank you, thank you. Really nice family here in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. So that's one of those things. And I also I think I still have like another documentary in me about
Mm.
something. You do that over the years, but
Mm-hmm.
that would be more kind of like on my own terms
Mm-hmm.
over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would probably involve interviewing people, kind of like we've been doing, interviewing people about their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like that idea of the next stage,
Mm-hmm.
like what keeps you clicking, what keeps you ticking. I
Mm-hmm.
really like that idea. So
Mm-hmm.
probably because I'm getting older.
I totally
Yeah. And just
understand.
spending a
I
lot of time
really.
with my wife and the
Mm-hmm.
grand. So
You're
that's
freezing a
it.
little
I
bit
mean,
again.
that's us in a nutshell. And
Yeah.
you know, oh, I was gonna say that's this has been a really great experience the last two seasons because we have gotten to reconnect with a lot of people that we worked
Mm-hmm.
with, a lot of people that we've just known over the years, or we have met more recently. And I hope when people listen to it, they learn about those people as well. And I know very often after we would be done interviewing people, Carrie, and they would go away, we'd be like, wow, that was really interesting and really fun because,
Uh-huh.
you know, you just don't get to sit down and talk to people about their lives, unless you're back in the day when you were dating your wife or your husband, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's fascinating stuff.
it is. And even, we've talked about Shannon a couple of times. Like, that's been inspirational for me. It's like, what are you waiting for? Just go for it. The worst that can happen is somebody says no. So
Right.
just
Right.
just go after your dreams, and then you'll have no regrets because you tried, and you learn things along the way. Maybe your goals shift in the meantime, but that's been very helpful for me personally.
And ironically, I think it's because nobody really wants to be old news. They want to be
Yeah.
relevant and they
Yeah.
want to be news, not like
Hmm.
the big story all the time, but you want to be part of this world and be doing something productive and contributing. And so I think that's the irony of it all is even
Hmm.
though our show is called Old News, most of the time we were talking about stuff people did, but stuff they still wanted to be doing.
Yes, and how their past shaped their future and how they're using those
Yes.
skills from the past, things they learned working in news to do whatever they're doing today and to keep evolving and growing.
Right. So
All
that's
right.
all I got for this season, Carrie.
Me too. So let's wrap up season 2. There could be more ahead. And we just thank you so much for listening. If this is the first thing you're listening to, please go back and listen to all of these interviews. And we sincerely hope you enjoy them.
Thanks for tuning in to Old News with Dan and Carrie.
That's old news for now.
Join us next time.